Right, I think we're ready to go. Good morning, Nick.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Just give me a second. I'll get the first question up.
Okay, sure.
All right, there we go. So, as always, a couple of minutes. Please go ahead. Okay, so that's 2 minutes. Let's take a look at this question. So from my side, not too much to discuss over here, but I just wanted to quickly check: are we able to see the parallelism issues? And of course, just to quickly confirm, the correct answer is option C, the third option. And yeah, were we comfortable with taking some of these options out because of parallelism? Let me just have a quick yes in the chat window. All right, Nick and Divya have confirmed. I think Shohini just joined. Shohini, I'm not sure if you've had time to look at the question. Okay, right. Now, in this case, I think a couple of options here that we could discuss. So, option A says which brightened the northern lights and also possibly knocking. So, that's clearly not parallel. Option B says it brightened and possibly knocked out. Now, give me your thoughts on option B. How would you remove option B? And of course, please feel free to unmute.
Hi. I think the first thing is that introducing it can be how to say uh, it can refer to not just how to say, it is not clear the reference of the word it, and I think to introduce the comma and it's kind of now we're losing like the cause and effect that in the option as in the option C.
Good. So option B basically says that, there's an expanding cloud. It was what recently triggered a large storm and it brightened the northern lights, right? So that it is A, ambiguous. Second, it's not giving us that nice connection with the first part of the sentence that we were looking for from a meaning perspective. And one quick thing, so that's what Nick told us. And just one quick thing to add to that: this was what recently triggered, right? It's grammatically correct, but it's also completely not required. It's wordy, right? So something was what triggered, not necessary. We could just do that in a much more compact way. Okay, so just two options left. D and E, how did we take those options out? Divya, just a quick check. I think your microphone is currently not enabled.
Hello. Hi, Arun. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. It's enabled now.
Yeah, I checked out D&E because of modifier issue.
Okay, what was the modifier issue?
Uh,
Oh,
Okay,
right.
so it says
Mhm.
who monitored its path. So the path, then it becomes a large storm in the magnetic field that surrounds Earth. So then, if we go by option D, then it means that the path is of the storm in the magnetic field that surrounds the Earth.
Right. Now, I think what you're doing is fine. It may be a little risky though. So, uh, for people who are not familiar with this particular topic, this concept of energized particles and magnetic storms, I think they might struggle to take that meaning call, right? So some of them might think, okay, are we sure that we're tracking the cloud of energized particles? Are we sure that we're targeting the magnetic field? They may not be sure, right? So, no,
Yeah,
I
but we still
so
have that
mhm,
it there, which could refer to a number of things.
absolutely. So that it is definitely ambiguous. And an interesting point about both D and E is they have just completely forgotten about this ejected from the sun. So if you take a look at A, B, and C, you will see ejected from the sun. That part is just missing in options D and E. Doesn't happen that often on
Right.
the GMAT, but when we see something like this, like a piece of information is just not even there in some options, it's a pretty good signal that we might be losing something important. Right. So if we don't say ejected from the sun, then it sounds as if we're just saying some cloud of energized particles from somewhere. That information seems important. So we don't want to lose that in options D and E. All right. Quick check. But just to quickly take a look at the point that Divya was trying to make, it is a valid point. Just come back to Adobe for a second. So I think one way to visualize this, right, is when you look at the sun. So imagine that this is the sun, and imagine that this is the earth, right? So when you think about a cloud of energized particles, you would expect that cloud not to have some kind of very small local effect. So when you talk about a magnetic storm in the Earth's, when you talk about a storm in the Earth's magnetic field, you're not talking about some tiny localized thing that you can just track as it moves around the Earth. What's going to happen is you're going to have a cloud of energized particles that are going to wash over the Earth and probably, you know, flare everything in their path. So what Divya said is absolutely spot on, right? But the point I was trying to make. So Divya, just to clarify, your approach is correct. All I was saying is someone who's not familiar with what this sentence is talking about, they may struggle to take that meaning call. So there are other ways to remove options D and E, and we could use those as well. Quick check: is everyone comfortable with this one? All right. So I've got a couple of yeses, and Divya, is that okay? Excellent. And I see that Priyanshi has also joined us. Good morning, Priyanshi. You've also enabled your microphone, which is great. Excellent. And of course, please correct me if I'm mispronouncing your name. So just help me out over there in case I've made a mistake. We're almost ready to move. Excellent. We're almost ready to move on to the next question. Let me put that up. Please go ahead. You guys have a couple of minutes. I'll let you know when when the 2 minutes over. So that's 2 minutes. Let's get started on this one. Please check your answers. The correct answer is E, the last option. Now, the main thing that I want to do over here is check the application of subject verb agreement. So over here, we see some options with an is, and we see some options with an are right at the beginning. So if you look, for example, if you look at the correct option E, it says that are. Now, that's what I want to just quickly check. Anyone who's comfortable taking this, please go ahead, unmute and let me know. How do we decide between is and are? That's pretty much the main thing that I want to check from my side.
Okay, I would like to try. So when we say one of the mini satellites, so then it should be R. So in this case, it should be R. So they were
Why should it be are?
because we these in this sentence we want to talk about all these satellites, and we are saying that AM1 was one of those mini satellites.
Right. So over here, the way we do this is we take a meaning call. So if you come back to Adobe for a second, the structure we're looking at over here is one of the, and then you get a plural noun, and then you get, a that, for example, and then you have a verb. So it could be a singular verb like is, or it could be a plural verb like are. Now, the thing over here is when you see a relative pronoun like that, this that over here, the that may be referring to the plural noun. It may be referring to the word one. Now, if it refers to one, you need a singular verb. And if it refers to the plural noun, you basically need a plural verb. So both are possible. So you might get a singular verb, or you might get a plural verb. It depends on what the that is referring to. Now, the shortcut for this is in most cases on the GMAT, it's going to be plural, right? So that's the shortcut for this. But the best way to go about this is to take a meaning call. So what we want to do is we want to check, are we trying to talk about all of these things, or are we saying that this satellite is an exception? That is, there's nothing else that's doing this. It's the only one that's doing this. Now, if the intended meaning is that it's the only one, then we will go singular. So if it's the only one, and I'm just going to underline the word the over here, the only one. But if our intention is to say that all of these things are basically similar in some way, then we want to go plural. We will choose are. Awesome. Now, so that was the point that I wanted to discuss from my side. Before we move on, let me just quickly check. Anything that you guys would like to discuss? Anything that you want to ask after solving this question? Or let me just ask, if you're comfortable with this, please put in a yes in the chat window. And if you have a question, please feel free to unmute.
Ajitesh, I have one question regarding the option D. Is that how we are actually eliminating it? Just because they have a that after the 15 years, like it doesn't clear the meaning.
Which option?
Option D.
Option D, right? So let's take a look at these satellites that are part of an effort for 15 years. That has subjected the interactions of Earth's atmosphere, oceans, and land surfaces. Now, you're correct. So one of the reasons is the that, and the second reason is effort for 15 years. Normally, when we talk about the duration of an effort, right, we say, okay, the 3-year effort to do this, not the effort for 3 years. And the second thing is that has subjected. So an effort to subject versus an effort that has subjected. So let me just come back to Adobe for a second. So if you think about the meaning, right? An effort to do this, let's say an effort to take the GMAT, right? Now, over here, what you're doing is you're defining the effort. You're telling us which effort or what effort we're talking about. An effort to take the GMAT. But if you say something like an effort that has taken the GMAT, right? Now, I know that in this case, an effort cannot possibly take an exam, right? So that's definitely a problem. But the point I'm trying to make is here, we're not saying that this was the purpose of the effort, like this was the specific effort. It just means that there is an effort that has taken the GMAT. It doesn't mean that that was the intention behind the effort. So an effort To take the GMAT means that is the intent or the intention behind the effort. But if you just say an effort that has taken the GMAT, you're just saying the effort has done something, but you don't know what the original intention of the effort was. Quick check. Shoini, is that better?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Now, let me get the next question up. Well, in fact, thank you for asking this question because the next question is sort of like that from what I remember. All right. The next question is up on your screens. Please go ahead. You have 2 minutes. Okay, I see that some of us are done. Now, first of all, please check your answers. The correct answer is D for Delta. Now, I'm going to open this up to you guys. Let me know how you went about solving this question.
So for the first three, I was able to eliminate on the meaning call because that Joseph Banks has actually given proof for some event. But the first three, the first one is taking that talking that they are for subjects. The second one is for cards, and the third is also of subjects.
Excellent. So that was exactly what I was looking for. Sometimes when people do this question, they tell me that they are taking some kind of idiomatic call. So they think that, oh, I just need the word that over there. But the point over here is that all of these words at the beginning of these options they're all valid. All of these words are valid. So if you think about the word proof, right? Leave the word statistical for a second. That's just an adjective. If you think about the word proof, you can have proof for something, you can have proof of something, and you can have proof that something. Now, what Shoni is trying to point out is if you have a dependent clause introduced by that, that gives you access to a subject and a verb, right? So you have that after the that. Now, if you don't use a that, then you just have a noun. Now, if I say something like this, there is no proof that the man is guilty. Right now, this is trying to say something, and it's pretty clear what it's trying to say. There is no proof that the man is guilty. So, what are we looking for proof for? The fact that the man is guilty. But if I say something like this, there is no proof of the man. That's it. This is incorrect. There is no proof of the man because we don't want to say that there is no proof of the man. We want to say that there's no proof that the man is guilty. Quick check. Is everyone comfortable with this one? Excellent. Now, a small variation of this that we sometimes see in GMAT questions, it looks something like this. There is no proof of the man who is guilty. Now, when you're ready, please unmute. Tell me, why is this one wrong?
Here it is also like talking about the man. It is like already given that he is guilty. So it's
Excellent.
the proof of the man, not the proof of the man is guilty.
Good. So, what we're doing over here is we're saying that there is a man, the man is guilty. So, there is a man who is guilty. And again, there is no proof of that man. Again, this is not the right meaning. If we want to use a noun, we want to use a noun which is going to accurately convey the meaning that we want. So, what we want to do is something like there is no proof of the man's guilt. Something like that. This would be possible. But just saying that there's no proof of the man is wrong. It's also incorrect to say there is no proof of the man who is guilty, because at the end of the day, it becomes something like there's no proof of the man. All right. Now, quick check before we move on. Any other issues in this question that you'd like to discuss, or are we comfortable with this? If you're comfortable with this, let me have a yes. Otherwise, please unmute and feel free to ask your question. Divya, go ahead. Let me know. What would you like to discuss in E? Is there something specific there?
I didn't find any deterministic errors in E. It, like, meaning wise, also it sounded like D and E both sounded right.
Hang on, your voice is cutting in and cutting out. Maybe you need to be slightly closer to the microphone. I'm not sure.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I was saying I didn't find any deterministic errors in E. How do we rule out E?
Claimed statistical proof that subjects are capable to use. Okay, so yeah, we have to stop over there. Capable to use is not correct. You can say able to use, but you cannot say capable to use. Capable is followed by of. Yes. So someone can say that, he or she is capable of doing something, but not capable to do something. Quick
So
check. Sounds. Mhm.
is always wrong.
Sorry, say that again.
Capable to do is like an idiomatic.
Yes. So it's not idiomatically correct to say someone is capable to do something.
Okay.
Quick check. Sounds okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So if everyone's comfortable with this one, let's move on to the next question. All right. Please go ahead. You have a couple of minutes. All right, so 2 minutes are up. Um, I'd like you guys to walk me through this one. Whenever you're ready, please unmute and let me know how you went about solving this question. But just to quickly let you know, the correct answer is E, E for echo.
Okay, I would like to try.
Hi, can you
Please go
hear me?
ahead. I think I heard two people, and I was it Divya?
Yeah, but yeah, Priyanshu.
So Divya, please go ahead, and Priyanshi will just come back to you after Divya is has made her point. Go ahead, Divya.
Sure, that's all right.
So this is like we're saying that owning and living in a freestanding house is one thing. That is a
Hmm.
goal of majority of young adults, and also like we comparing it to the goal of earlier generations.
Hmm.
So I ruled out B for using for and that for earlier generations because we see it's still a goal of a majority of adults, like the goal of earlier generations. So that for somewhere me. Then I ruled out
Okay.
C using did, like did what. So we don't
Hmm.
have any questions to follow from
Right.
previous clause. Then in D we have as have earlier generation. So it should be as have lived, like something like that, but it would not be goals. So B, C,
Hmm.
D gone like that. And A is like that of earlier generations. So it did first, like I was confused between A and E. So
Hmm.
it's like the goal of earlier generations, but I was not able to really like take a call between them, but I went with E.
Got it. Fair enough. All right, Priyanshi, over to you. Go ahead.
According to me, this is a simple parallelism-based question wherein we are talking about present generation having a goal of owning and living in a freestanding house. We just have
Hmm.
to maintain that similar structure while taking care of the fact that this should be in the past tense because we are talking about the earlier generations here, according to me.
Right. So let's divide your answer into two parts. The first one is the tense, and the second aspect is the parallelism. Now, the interesting thing about this question is that the official explanation, if I remember correctly, also says something about parallelism over here. But this is not really parallelism the way we normally apply it. This is purely a meaning call. But we'll just come back to that in a second. That's the main point that I want to discuss. We will just come back to it in a second. Firstly, let's take a look at option B for Bravo. B says, as that for earlier generations. Now, over here, the for is a little iffy, right? Owning and living is still a goal of, as it is a goal for. It's not wrong, at least not in my opinion. But the for is not how we would normally say it. Normally, we would say goal of earlier generations, not the goal for earlier generations. The big problem over here is we are using as followed by a noun. That's it, not a clause. Quick check. Can anyone tell me why using as followed by a noun? It's grammatically possible, but why is it wrong over here?
When as is followed by a noun, it takes up like the role. So when the noun is taking a role. He joined the company as a CEO. So that is
That
correct.
is that is 100% correct. So when you use as followed by only a noun, you are typically talking about the role that someone is playing. You're saying in the capacity of something. What we want is the like meaning. We want the like meaning, right? So we don't want the role meaning, we want the like meaning. The like meaning is as followed by clause. It is not as followed by noun. Let me have a yes in the chat window if everyone's comfortable with this. All right, so I've received yeses from everyone. Good. Now, Divya absolutely brought up a couple of good points over here about the did. So when you're looking at did in option C, you're left asking yourself, okay, what did they do? Right? What is that helping verb? What is that verb referring to? So what is it trying to stand in for? There's nothing in the sentence that we can find. Now we come down to A and E. again, over here, let me repeat that the official explanation might be a little different. I think even on GMAT Club, a lot of people focus on the wrong things when it comes to A versus E. A versus E is purely a meaning call. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss like. So if somebody says, like my sister, I am an engineer. Now, don't worry about whatever you may have read about like in the GMAT prep world. I just want you to tell me the meaning of this sentence. Whenever you're ready, just unmute and tell me. It's a very simple sentence. No trick questions over here.
My sister is also an engineer.
That's right. So this is a shorter way of saying, like my sister is an engineer, I am an engineer. So the mistake that a lot of people make when they look at like is they think like is just somehow comparing the nouns. It isn't. Like is not meant to just put my sister and me together. It's not supposed to do that. What like does is like gives you access to the verb in the clause. What that means is whatever is coming after the I over here, am an engineer, that idea is being accessed by like. So, like my sister, I am an engineer is meant to be read as the same way that my sister is an engineer, I am an engineer. That's how it's meant to be read. So, whenever you use like, remember the verb on the right hand side is also important. That is what the meaning of the like word is, or what like will end up doing in terms of meaning. Quick check. Is everyone comfortable with what Nick said? Let me have a quick yes. Excellent. Now we come to the second point that Priyanshi brought in, which was very, very important in order to take that call between A and E. If you use like, you do not have the tense available to you. You are locked into using the verb or a variant of the verb on the right hand side. That's it. That's your only option. So if you end up saying something like the goal of earlier generations, owning and living in a house is a goal of current generations, what you're effectively saying is the earlier generations still have this goal, even though they are earlier generations. So, owning and living is a goal of current generations, like it is a goal of earlier generations. That's not the meaning that we want. Now, this is a meaning call. What we want to do is we want to say that this used to be a goal of earlier generations and it is a goal of current generations. So we don't want to say, so, let me give you another example. This would be like saying, like the goal of my parents, my goal is to take the GMAT. Like the goal of my parents, my goal is to take the GMAT means my parents also have a goal to take the GMAT, as in they're thinking about taking the GMAT. This is no wrong. We don't want to say, at least the intended meaning is not that the parents want to take the GMAT. It must be that they had taken the GMAT like decades ago. Quick check, is everyone comfortable with this one? How we take option A out? Quick check. Shohini, is this one okay? Excellent. All right, guys. Now, before we move on to the next question, quick check. Anything else in this question that you want to discuss? Or if you're comfortable with this question, let me have a yes in the chat window. All right. I think I've received multiple yeses. Fair enough. Time to put the next question up. There you go. You have a couple of minutes. Please go ahead. All right, so that's 2 minutes. Now this is a pretty tough question. Please check your answers. The correct answer is B for Bravo. Now, from my side, there's pretty much just one point that I want to discuss, and that's option A. How should we take option A out?
I think for option A, I took the meaning call because to use the participle after the event, it sounds like the ancestor just maybe reduce their number themselves. But I think here we are trying to say that the event itself is the things that reduce the numbers.
Right. Instead of using a that relative clause in option B, option A uses, I mean, it doesn't use a relative clause. It just puts the reducing part into a participle, right? As Nick pointed out. Or let me be clearer. What is the difference between a that relative clause and a which relative clause?
So actually, that is referring to the entire previous clause, and which will be referring to the noun.
So, although in our classes we say that we can use a relative pronoun to refer to a clause, we do refer to that as a level 3 error. We're open to it, but it's not like we specifically want the that to do that. All right, come back to Adobe for a second. Let's review this concept. So, you've got a that and you've got a which. Now, we know that these words can be used in many ways, right? When we use them as relative clauses, that is just one way of using these words. There are many other ways of using these words. Now, the point is when you have a noun and you have a that, right? That can only be used in something called a restrictive, in the restrictive sense. Restrictive means that it is used to define the noun that comes before it. In our classes, we normally refer to this as taking a subset. So, for example, if you say an exam that I took, right? Over here, what you're trying to do is you are trying to reduce the scope of the exams that you're talking about. You're talking about a specific exam that you took. Another quick example of this would be foods that I like. Foods that I like, what you're doing is you're taking the entire set of foods and you're pulling a subset from that set of foods, and these are the foods that you like. Quick check, is everyone comfortable with this? That used to create a subset from a larger set to talk about a specific version of those foods. And of course, if you're not sure, please unmute and ask your questions. All right, I see Nick, Priyanshi, and Divya have confirmed. Shohini, is this okay or not sure? Okay, good. Now, the thing is, some people think that you can also use which in this way, foods which I like. Now, to be clear, we have to say that this is contentious. This is not something which we can say with confidence is fine. We don't want to do that. So, over here, let's be clear about one thing. We have never seen the GMAT do this in a correct option. Never. And to be very clear, what are we doing? We are referring to a noun using a relative that or a which without a comma. So no comma. And over here, I don't mean a comma like you have some other modifier between the noun and the that. Those commas are fine. We're not talking about those commas. We're talking about a comma specifically for the noun and the that or the which after it. There is no comma. It's probably not okay to use a which over there. Some of you may have heard this rule before that which should only be used with a comma between the noun before it and the which. This is where we're coming from on this. I don't think this is an absolute rule, but we've never seen the GMAT break this. In earlier years, in fact, the GMAT used to say that this is wrong. The official guides used to say that this is wrong. If you use a which without a comma between the noun and the which. In more recent official guides, they've kind of tempered their position a bit. They've said that, this is disputed. But again, I don't expect them to break this rule. The point is that can never be used with a comma between it and the noun that it points to. and which is normally used with a comma between the noun and the which. Now, let's come back to the fact that that restricts the scope of what we're talking about. Now, go back to the question. Read option B. At some point in the past, our ancestors suffered an event that greatly reduced their numbers. I want you to put what we were discussing together and apply it to option B. An event that greatly reduced. They suffered. What did they suffer? An event that reduced their numbers. In other words, they suffered a specific event, an event that reduced their numbers. Now go to option A. At some point in the past, our ancestors suffered an event, greatly reducing the numbers. They just suffered an event, like in a general event, they just suffered an event. That's what option A is saying. So without using a specific, so, a restrictive that over there, what we're just saying is they just suffered an event. Now, nobody goes around and says things like, oh, I suffered an event yesterday. What you say is, I suffered an event that something, right? You specify the event. You don't just say I suffered an event generally, right? Let me have a yes in the chat window if you're comfortable with this thing that we just discussed. All right, received a couple of yeses. Nick has confirmed. Divya, perfect. Now let me just quickly check. I'm sorry, Nick, I see your microphone is on. Quick check. Any questions from your side? Oh, okay, no problem. So let me have a yes in the chat window if you're comfortable with this. Now, just to quickly check, I do have a few more questions on my list. Just a quick check from you guys. Do you want to take a look at like 2, 3 more questions, or do you want to stop the practice session at this point and then we can move into just a general discussion of doubts from the course for the next half an hour or so? So let me know, more questions, like 2, 3 more questions, or should we just move on? Oh, okay. I see most people are. Nick, just a quick check. All right, excellent. So I have 3 more questions. I think we'll be able to do all of them. Now I'm going to put the next question up. Please go ahead. Okay, so that's 2 minutes. Please check your answers. The correct answer is E, E for echo. Now, when you're ready, which option do I want to discuss? I think option A is quite easy to remove. A says heavy commitment, especially if it has worked well in the past, makes it likely. So you've got two it's over there very close to each other, and it's hard to know what they're referring to. Of course, the big problem is that makes it likely you cannot use an it to refer to an executive. An executive is a person. At most, you may be able to use it to refer to like a baby, like a human baby, but you cannot use it for, normal people. So executive it, that's definitely wrong in option A. Option B, I think, is one that I like. As in, quick check, how should we remove option B for Bravo?
Here it says that the executive makes missing signs, right? If I just
Mhm,
skip the relative pronoun.
mhm.
So the executive cannot make missing signs.
That's correct. We don't want to say an executive makes missing signs of incipient trouble likely. So, Shoeni's taken a meaning call over there, and we've removed option B. Option C is a hard one. Any ideas on how we can remove option C? C for Charlie? Nick, no, I'm sorry. No, you're not audible. Yes, that's correct. So we're looking at a pronoun that is just super, like really far from what it's trying to refer to. Let's take a look at that option and read it out. An executive who is heavily committed to a course of action. Course of action, that's the noun that we want to refer to. And it's right at the beginning of the sentence. Let's continue. An executive who is heavily committed to a course of action is likely to miss or misinterpret signs of incipient trouble when they do appear, especially if it has worked well in the past. By the time you reach this it, you're not sure what that it is referring to anymore. Is it referring to incipient trouble? Are we trying to say that the trouble has worked well in the past? Are we trying to say that the course of action has worked well? It's very hard to relate that it to course of action. Now, over here, let's be clear on one thing. This is not impossible, but this option is not as clear as the correct option, and that's why we remove it. So in this option, you will see only a level 3 call, as far as I know. If you can see something else in option C that you want to discuss, please feel free to bring it up. But this is one of those options that we don't have like a super absolute entry point into, right? So we take it out for pronoun ambiguity. Quick check. Let me have a yes if you're comfortable with this question, and we move on to the next one. Okay, good. Let me get the next question up. There you go. You have 2 minutes. Please go ahead. All right, so that's 2 minutes. Please check your answers. The correct answer is B for Bravo. Now, there are two important points that we should discuss over here. Now, let me put up a quick sentence over here. I solved more questions than my friend did. Now, take a look at the sentence. Let me know if you think it's okay. Versus, I solved more questions than my friend. When you're ready, let me know. First sentence sounds okay. Second sentence sounds okay or not. Okay, Nick is saying both are okay. Or let me give you a bit of background on this. So, some resources say that the second one is wrong. I mean, if you've gone through some resources that have said this, you can let me know. But the main thing that I want to check over here is, do we think the second one is like an absolute error? Or is it not an error? Or is it like a level 3 error? Okay, Nick is calling this a level 3 error. Fair enough. Let's quickly check. Divya and Shohini, have you guys seen this before? Right. So Divya saying one is just clearer, and Shohini saying did is just understood. Got it. Perfect. So if you see any resources that say that the second one is dead wrong, please ignore them. What's actually happening is that the first one is clearer. The second one has two possible meanings. But just the fact that there are two possible meanings doesn't mean that that option is impossible, because one of those meanings is possible, right? So what we want to do is we want to remember that the first one is clearer, right? And this is why it's so important to understand what we're doing when we're studying these concepts. Because if we don't, what's going to happen is the GMAT is going to be able to exploit that. So when we incorrectly classify certain errors as level 1 when they're actually level 3, we'll remove an option during the exam and we'll not know that we've made a mistake. All right. So I think everyone is comfortable with this. In fact, if you look at the correct option, let's go back to the question. If you look at the correct option, it does say wild animals have less total fat than livestock. That's it. It doesn't say than livestock do, right? So that do is not there. Now, the next point that I wanted to discuss is, let's see. Yeah, option C, C for Charlie. Take a look at option C. Let me know. How do you think we should take this out? And of course, while you're looking at option C, let's remember that option, for example, option A cannot be correct because it has a they in it, right?
So this
Mhm.
that of might be referring to less total fat, not total fat.
No, not necessarily.
So
Nick is saying it's a meaning. Yes, please go ahead.
I did not use go for C because we do not generally say less noun than noun. Like, I mean, I have less money than money that is required. I would say I have less money than required, or I have
That is
less.
correct. That is correct. But you don't want to generalize over there. You don't want to say that for all nouns. So when we say words like fat or time, right, we don't have specific versions of that for everyone. So just to give everyone a version of the sentence that Divya used over here, let's take a look at this sentence. If somebody says, let me write it down actually, I have less time than my brother. If you want, you can add a does over here. It doesn't matter. This is not the point we're discussing. We've already discussed the does point before this. So the point we're trying to discuss over here is I have less time than my brother does. If you look at the word time, it's not like you have a different time and your brother has a different time, right? Time is just one thing. That's why we don't want to say something like, I have less time than that of my brother, which would be like saying, I have less time than the time of my brother. There is no the time of my brother, right? What you're trying to say is, I have less time than my brother has time. not that my brother has his time or the time. It's just time and in a general sense. So, quick check: is everyone comfortable with Divya's point over here? That is the reason we remove option C. Let me have a quick yes in the chat window if you're comfortable with this. Okay, so that brings us to the final question. Let me put that up. All right, please go ahead. You have 2 minutes. Okay, so that's 2 minutes. Now, please check your answers. The correct answer is B for Bravo. When you're ready, let's start with this question. The first thing I wanted to check is appear versus appeared. What do you think? Present tense or past tense? And why?
Hello.
Mick, yes, you're audible. Go
Okay,
ahead.
perfect. Okay. I think should be present. Because I think now the intended meaning is that it appearing to us as of now, and I think this also confirmed by the second portion of the
Mhm.
sentence. That we also have the present tense there. The word indicates. So it's like we're talking about the present appearance.
Good, but let me just add one point to that. Apart from the fact that indicates is in the present tense, right? So remember, you can have two clauses that have verbs in different tenses within them, right? The thing we need to add to your point is the second part of the sentence is introduced by the word but. That's the important one. Now, if you look at the question, look at what it says. Combining enormous physical strength, blah, blah, blah. The Neanderthals appear to have been equipped, but their relatively sudden disappearance, right, indicates that an inability to adapt led to the extinction. So you have all these positive qualities. You have physical strength, you have higher intelligence. So when you look at these Neanderthals, right, what you think is, oh, wow, they appear to have been equipped. So appear, present tense. If you look at them, you're like, oh, wow, yes, all these positive qualities. But something indicates. So that word but introduces a contrast. So what we're trying to say is, okay, yes, they appear to have been equipped, but oh wow, we're surprised to see that something, they were not actually able to adapt. So if we go for the past tense, appeared, right? Neanderthals appeared to have been equipped. That means now, I mean, earlier we thought that they were equipped, but now we don't. But if that's the case, why are we so surprised by the second half that we're going to use the word but? Right? Why do we want that contrast over there? So the correct meaning needs us to go for the present tense. Neanderthals appear to have been equipped, right? If you think about them now, most people will think, okay, yeah, wow, nice, but something led to there that they were not able to adapt. Is everyone comfortable with this? Let me have a yes in the chat window if you're okay with the appear versus appeared call. All right, excellent. Now, the second point that I wanted to discuss, and this is something I'll just quickly walk you guys through. I just wanted to quickly point out that to have been equipped, right? To have been equipped in option B, that's an infinitive. We refer to this as the perfect infinitive. The perfect infinitive is used to talk about something in the past. But okay, so the point I wanted to discuss is some people see this have been equipped and they think that's the present perfect tense. Now, normally, if you see have been equipped, yes, that would be the present perfect tense. But this is not a verb that we're looking at. We're looking at an infinitive. The verb, in fact, is appear. So appear is the verb, and to have been equipped is a perfect infinitive. It's not a verb. So the things that we normally study for present perfect, we don't apply them to have been equipped. If we want to remember it, we'll just remember that a perfect infinitive refers to something in the past. So Neanderthals appear to have been equipped means even today, when we think of Neanderthals, we think they were equipped in the past. So appear is in the present tense, but to have been equipped does not have a tense. Quick check, is everyone comfortable with this one? Let me have a yes if you're okay with to have been equipped used to refer to the past. All right, Priyanshi and Nick have confirmed. Devya and Shohini, let me know. Excellent. All right. Now, a couple of other points in this question. Appear as equipped. Now, appear as is a phrase that we've looked at in one of our previous classes. Appear as is typically used when you're talking about a role, right? Like in a play or a movie or something, or you're talking about something like a disease, right? That it presents as something, it shows up in some form. So, appear as is typically not used to convey this kind of idea. Now, when you say he appears to be, let's say, ready, right? This word appears means seems. So, what you're saying is he seems to be ready. So, when you use the word appear to kind of mean seem, you don't want to say appear as. So, we really don't want to say he appears as ready. So, if you use appear to mean seem, you can use it in different ways. You can say it appears that he is ready. It appears that he is ready. This is absolutely fine, right? You can say he appears to be ready. That is also fine. But you don't want to say he appears as ready. And maybe one or two other things. Yeah, some of these options you'll notice use the plural noun paths. The word path that they're using in this question is slightly different. It's more like their evolutionary journey. It's not like an actual physical path that we're talking about. So we don't want to bring in these multiple plural paths. We just want a singular path to refer to their journey through history as such. Awesome. Quick check. Let me just get a yes in the chat window if you're comfortable with the points we've discussed. And of course, if you have questions from your side, please unmute and let me know. Divya and Priyanshi have confirmed. Nick and Shohini, let me have a yes. Or, of course, please ask your questions. Okay, everyone's comfortable with this. All right. So, wow. In today's session, we actually got through, I think, what, 8 questions or something. So that's a lot more than we normally do. I'm going to stop the recording at this point. Thank you all for attending this session. And if you'd like to stay back to discuss some doubts from the SC course, please do so.